This one should be good tonight, guys. I hope everybody enjoys it.
Great topic.
This verse freaked me out years ago, and I'm going to show y'all a short video that freaked me out. Was actually the video that made me think about all this. And I didn't even know if it was still on YouTube because it was like 9 years ago. And that's when I first started looking at this verse. So it worried me. It was like, how can we do all this stuff and then he's going to tell us that he doesn't know us, you know? I'll talk about, do you know the truth? Or will Jesus say to you, I never knew you? And there was a video that I came across about 9 years ago, and it made my heart just literally sink. I was like, oh my gosh, because I never had paid attention to that verse before, and it just brought it to the forefront in my mind, and I'm like, what would you do if you got to the point, you know, and he actually said those words to you when it was too late, you know? Well, this is the actual verse. It's Matthew 7:14, and it says, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth to life. No, this is another one, I'm sorry. Because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth to life, and few there be who find it. And that verse stuck in my mind too. It's like, oh my gosh, it's easy. Look at that crowd. That is a group of believers at this stadium-looking event. And it's like, you think everybody in that room is saved. Are they really saved, or are they not saved? If you find it, then can that possibly be that we have billions upon billions of Christians that are going to be saved? You know, or believers. I don't even call myself a Christian anymore after learning about the Christ word. I call myself a believer, you know, in Jesus Barabbas, what I tell people when they ask me. But that just made a big impression on me. Between the two verses about, he said, he'll tell you that he never knew you. And this verse, it was like, something's wrong with this picture that we're seeing in the world today, you know. Well, we're going to hear from Miss Claudia in Australia tonight. This lady is, I mean, she's a champion to come out with her, with the video that she did. And I'm going to play it for you. Let's see. If it didn't disappear, hopefully it didn't disappear. All right. I'm going to blow it up some. There's not really anything to see. It's more about what you hear. And I'm going to have to switch off of the headphones. And that, y'all have to tell me in chat if you can hear the volume or not when I turn it on. But if you want to see this, Michael Christwell has the original. It's on YouTube. And it's called The Shocking Day Jesus Told Me He Didn't Know Me. And this is, he posted this 9 years ago. And I don't agree with everything he said in the video, but I'm just going to play you the segment where Claudia from Australia is talking about when she had a near-death experience, and she got to see Jesus and what Jesus told her. And if you listen to her story real carefully, it's amazing. Okay, I'm going to switch mics and see if I can get this to work. Very
likely, based upon the fact that I'm making this observation now, that they would hear those words in Matthew 7:21. So I beg of you, pay attention to this.
Okay, well, I basically grew up as a non-practicing Catholic. Go to weddings and funerals and stuff like that, but we really didn't go. Occasionally we go for Christmas or Easter, but it wasn't, a done thing in my family. My dad always used to say God's everywhere and, you don't have to go into these buildings. I thought he knew what he was talking about until I found out myself. It's true that God is everywhere, but yeah, I found out so much more. I remember when I was getting concerned, I was having my class, Sunday classes before our confirmation, and I remember questioning my teacher. She was spirit-filled, which I didn't even know what that meant, but at the time, and I asked her why we had to pray to Mary when Jesus was the one that died for us. So that was the beginning of me questioning and wanting to know God. I was really analytical about everything. There had to be a reason for everything. Yeah, basically had to be a reason for everything, how things functioned and everything. Anyway, but that got shattered when I had the accident. My filing cabinet in my head got scrambled. So, it was a bit of a mess up. When I was 13, going on 14, which is my daughter's age now, I was gang raped by 4 guys, and that was a massive, absolutely massive thing that happened in my life. And I think I was praying to God, but I think I used to pray the Our Father more than the Hail Mary. To me, it didn't mean much, but I used to repeat the Our Father until I actually said every word meaning it, not just rattling it out like my daughter does now. But I think after the rape, I just really, I called out to him so much at that moment. That was the beginning of me really spending a lot of time talking to him and calling out to him. And 4 months before my accident, now this is pretty significant, I think. My uncle, he died of cancer, suddenly from lung cancer. I lived with him and my auntie for 4.5 years after high school. Anyway, in the meantime, he passed away. And so I was absolutely shattered because he was like a second father, I suppose. And he said to me, before Christmas 1985, around in December, he died, we buried him in November. In December, before Christmas, in a dream, he said to me, "Don't drive, I'll drive for you." And I thought, yeah, that's for sure. How can you drive? I didn't understand the meaning of that. And then I just had a feeling it was a pretty big accident, but I didn't sort of think much about it. After the dream, Good Friday, not Good Friday, Christmas Eve, 1985, I had a car accident. Yeah, Canberra, Australia. Yeah, basically I could see a car coming towards me, but it was on my lane. And when I knew we were about to hit, I just called out to the Lord with all my might and just in a way sort of let go of the steering wheel and said, "Okay, Lord, you take over, save me and heal me, and I'll serve you in any way, Lord. Just save me and heal me." And at that moment, we were about to hit, there was no way out of it. I just I know for a fact it was God, but, you know, people sort of say, oh, yeah, well, you know. But anyway, my tyres, I went onto the mud because it was raining, and I ended up spinning, and with the mud I got faster, and then I hit the tree stump. And I was knocked unconscious. I was critical for 12 weeks. Like, the machine was keeping me going, and they were saying to Mum and Dad, you know, shall we keep this going, you know? And so thanks to God caring for me, I was looked after. God saved me also from them turning the machine off, I suppose. And this is where I got to go back. I was taken to Batemans Bay, back and to the hospital there, and cleaned up and everything, and I couldn't go in the helicopter because of the head injury, so they took me in the car to Canberra, which is 2 hours away. And I remember someone saying to me, we're almost here, we've got one more set of traffic lights, just hold on there, Claudia. And I was just thinking, please, I can't hold on anymore, just keep going. And I remember when they were pulling me out, I could see myself from above. I mean, my spirit had left my body, and I could see everything happening, and I thought, well, no, I'm going, that's it, I'm gone. And so, because I used to question life and think, you know, why there's so much cruelty and all this stuff. And so, yeah, I was just off, and I actually saw, for a few seconds, to the left, I could see, like, hell. I heard, I could hear voices, and it was like I could see them, but I couldn't see a figure, you know. I could see them, but I couldn't see them. And I could hear screaming like nothing else. The screaming you'd never want to hear. It's just the most revolting, horrible feel, screaming. Of them being on fire, you know, burning. I remember them like burning, and I thought, I'm not going there. And I saw the light of heaven, and that's where I thought, I'm going. And I didn't want to see that anymore. It was like a few seconds, but I didn't want to hear or see any more of it. And off I went. And on the way, I saw my uncle that died a few months before, and he was talking to me, and all I wanted to do was get to that light. And anyway, I got there. I obviously couldn't enter because it wasn't my time, but I actually said, why? I don't want to go back. And I remember, I knew it was God. I knew it was God. Or Jesus. I just knew. I just knew it was him. I knew that he wasn't going to let me in, and well, he said to me, I don't know you, and that knocked me out. I just thought, what? Of course you know me. I've prayed to you all my life. I've loved you all my life. I've, you know, tried to be good all my life because that's what I was told. And he said, I don't know you. And then I remember him talking to you, but I just remember him saying to me, find me. And I had more work to do or something. And I thought, what? I didn't understand him. And when I woke up, and I thought, oh, I'm still here, I remembered him saying, I had to find him. And I thought, what do you mean find him? I've prayed to him all my life. Of course I know him. I didn't understand at that stage. So to me, that's pretty significant. I said, Lord, I don't want these wishy-washy churches trying to tell me that they know, because you're the only one that really can tell me, the way to heaven. I want to know the truth. I want to know how to get to heaven. I want to know. I know that you being God, can show me somehow, I don't know how, but you can show me for yourself how, or reveal to me how to find heaven, how to find you, how to find the truth. I want to know the truth of you.
Oh, God, this makes me cry. Let's see if y'all can hear me now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, that video always makes me cry. It's like, because this is exactly what we've been trying to tell everybody. I guess it's still hooked up. I guess it's all right. We're not getting echo, are we?
No, it's
We getting
good.
Okay.
It's good.
But the video always makes me cry. It's like, because that's what I've been trying to tell everybody. It's like, they don't know him. They don't know Father, and they don't know him. And it's like, the big clue, I think, to this whole verse is right within this chapter of Matthew. It's Matthew 7, and if you haven't studied it out, study every little word of it, because this is the most important thing that we can do. This is our hope, and it's our salvation, and it's what's going to get us home, is to really know him and know the Father. And I know this lady's story is true. The reason I know it is because did you hear that confusion in her voice when she said, I knew it was God, or it was Jesus, or, because that's how I felt when I had that encounter. It was like, oh God, this is God. This is real. Is this Jesus, or is this Father? Is it? My brain kept going back and forth. It was like, I knew who it was, but I didn't know. It was like, and the way he talked to me was similar to the way he talked to her. It was like, because he just was like in my head going, you have to change. You have to change. And I was like, I got it. And then my whole life flashed before me. And I didn't have a near death. I was conscious, alert, in my studio painting when this happened. And it's like, when I heard her story, was shortly after I had my encounter. And I think it was just divine providence that I was supposed to hear her story, because I just knew in my heart it was real, what she was saying from my encounter. And I kept trying to think in my mind a way to show y'all. I mean, I think this prayer for the truth, like she said, that I just want to know how to get back to you. I want to know. It's like, once you have an encounter like that with him, it's like, you can't, I'm sorry, I'm crying. I got to wipe my eyes again. You can't describe it. You just do anything. It doesn't matter what it is, just to get back with him. It's like the love that pours out from him is just, it's just like something having my baby was nothing compared to being in his presence. And I couldn't see him. People asked me, they said, could you see him? I couldn't see him. But he was in my head, and I knew he was in my living room or in my studio, which was my living room and studio. And I was painting, and I was like, "That's him. That's him. It's him." And I couldn't believe he was there, and it was in the midst of all my debauchery of my life, which was pagan altars and junk all over the place, and I mean, I could not believe it. But she's kind of the same way. But I mean, I cannot even imagine if he'd have said, "I don't know you." I mean, that would have it would have devastated my life. It would have just like threw me under a bus. And I think that's kind of when you listen to her, you can hear the panic in her voice. It's like you can hear it, you know. But I wanted to show y'all what I think there is to see in Matthew 7 tonight about this verse, and why I think that this whole chapter is so important, and how it's kind of like a lifeline for us. And the reason that he put those words in there was because we don't want to hear, "I never knew you." I think that people can do all kinds of good things. I saw people healed in Wiccan circles. They did healing ceremonies with crystals and all this stuff, you know, where they lay hands and they do all that stuff just like they do in the churches. And I actually saw people actually get healed. I saw a diabetic healed of their diabetes. But they don't know the one person that can get them, or the being. I can't really even call him person. He's Father. He's God. They don't know the one that can get them through that door, you know, to the other side. Because no matter if, you know, the bombs start falling tonight and we're all gone, it's like, if you don't know him, you won't make it in there. You're not going to get in. Now, I don't know where you go. I don't know if it's just a void where you don't have Father around. I don't know what it is, but I do know that there's only one way to get there, and that's Jesus. And his real name is Jesus Bar Abba. I firmly believe that. I'm going to try to quit crying now and share the rest of this stuff with you. This video always tears me up. I shouldn't even watch it. But I put that card on there because, bless that woman, I'm just glad she put that video online. I mean, it's really a blessing for people to be able to hear that, you know. And her name is Claudia from Australia. We should all pray for her, because I hope that when she started praying for the truth, she got the spirit of truth from him, and he helped her see what we see today. Because I know a lot of y'all have already seen the truth, but we got to share it so other people don't hear those words. Because I can't think of anything more devastating than to go through life and then hear those words at the end of this life, you know. And this is a message from him too, John 5:25. And amen can mean at the end. They don't talk much about that, but it literally can mean at the end. And it says, at the end, I say to you, the hour is coming and is now here, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those that hear it will live. And that's like, we're going to, the ones that are supposed to hear will hear his voice in these scriptures, and they will know the real Father. They will know that he's the real Father and that he's waiting there for us. It's like in 5:24, he says, truly, truly, I say to you, whoever hears my word and believes him who sent me has eternal life. He does not come into judgment, but has passed from death to life. There ain't going to be no waiting around in the bottom of the dirt until the last day of the earth. You're going to pass directly from death to life. And that's why people see him immediately. When you hear all these near deaths, they're not laying around in some coffin waking up scared to death in the middle of, 6 feet under. They're literally, with him, either being told they're going in or they're not. He's the only way. He's the only door and gate we have to get there. He's the way, the truth, and the life. And no man comes to the Father except by him. Now, this Matthew has a lot of things in it. The first line is, judge not, that you not be judged. And then it's also in Luke 6:37, judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. And it's like, this is a total polar opposite from the Old Testament, because Yahweh in the Old Testament tells people to judge. And in like Exodus 18:13, the next day Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood around Moses from morning till evening. They were being judged. Then Leviticus 19:15, you shall do no injustice in court. You shall not be partial to the poor or defer to the great, but in righteousness you shall judge your neighbor. And he says, don't judge at all. And we all make judgment calls. We make, what I call judgment calls. It's like we are aware when somebody's like doing drugs or doing something they shouldn't be, and we try to avoid those things, and we try to bring them back to the truth. But he's talking about judging them, like, oh, they're horrible. You can't do that. Or if somebody hurts you or something, and it's just human nature. It's like your families can hurt you, your siblings as you get older, even mine. It's like they went through a whole court mess with me. They stole my inheritance and everything, and it's real hard not to want to judge them and stuff for what they did. But I just had to forgive them and walk on. That's all we can do. When somebody wrongs you, even if they don't even ask for forgiveness, I go ahead and forgive them anyway. And I hope they do the same for me if I hurt somebody, because we all hurt people. We don't want to. We don't mean to, but we do. Okay. It goes on in the second verse, after judge not, that ye not be judged. For with what judgment you judge, you shall be judged, and what measure you meter, you shall be measured to you again. And why, behold thy mote that is in thy brother's eye, and consider not the beam in thy own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote of thine eye, and behold a beam that's in thine eye? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam that's in your own eye, and then you shall see clearly to cast out the mote that's in your brother's. Give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast ye pearls before swine, lest they trample on them under your feet, and turn again and rend you. Now, I have a feeling about this, that some of this may have been added to his words, because I don't see him doing the cast your pearls before swine and all that, or talking about people as dogs, unless he meant the Romans, because the Romans were known as dogs, and that was not a bad thing for them because of the Romulus and Remus thing. I thought about that when he calls that woman the dog in the other verse, because I'm like, that was either the Christ one, or either it was him talking to a Roman, because they called each other dogs. I had to look that up because I was trying to figure out why that was used. But when we look at Exodus 2:12, this is what he's talking about. This is Moses. He's like, and he looked this way and that, and when he saw it, there was no man. He slew the Egyptian and hid in the sand. So he looked around to make sure nobody was watching, and then he unalived a man. And when he went down the second day, behold, two of the men of the Hebrews strove together, and said to him what he did, that he did wrong, and wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said to them, who made you the prince and the judge over us? Intends you to unalive as thou unalived the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. So Moses himself, who sat as a judge, had unalived a man and already committed a wrong. And I think that's part of what he was trying to get them to see, because these were stories that they had heard when he was talking. Okay. And then Leviticus 19:15 through 16. You shall do no injustice or judgment. You shall not be partial to the poor or defer to the great, but you are to judge your neighbor fairly. You shall go about as a slander among your people, and you are not to act against the life of your neighbor. I am the Lord. But all in the Old Testament, there are incidents of people judging each other. And I think that he was trying to show us the nature of the true Father, that we are not to judge others. It's like they were taught the wrong things just like we were. They were taught that the Old Testament was the Father. And he was coming telling them something totally new. He tells us in Matthew that also in that same chapter that if we ask, it will be given to us. If we seek, and we will find it. And if we knock, the door is going to be open to us. So if we ask, seek, and knock for these things, we will get to see it, you know. Jesus is much more than a prophet, Montes. Here's another one. He goes on in verse 7, and that's the one I just read to you basically. Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it'll be open to you. For everyone that asks receives, and seeks that finds, and to him and that knocks it shall be open. Or what man is there of you whom if a son ask for bread he would give him a stone? Or if he asked for a fish would give him a serpent? If thee then, being evil, know how to give good foods unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them that ask him? Okay, when we go down, and the other one, verse 9, I don't know why that said man. This must be the version I'm in, but it says, what father would give his son a stone when he asked for a piece of bread? And when you look at Numbers, you can tell, you look at Numbers 11, that he's going back to that story of them in the wilderness. Because the manna was literally, it was the consistency of coriander seeds and the color of bdellium, and it had to be ground in the mills and in a mortar. And that's a pretty big thing because it was like rocks. They literally had to grind it up. And I'll read this passage for you. It's from verse 2 to 10. And the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burns among them. And in the mixed multitude that was among them fell a lusting, and the children of Israel also wept again. Who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, and the cucumbers and the melons, and the leeks, and the onions and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away, nothing at all, besides this manna before our eyes. And the color therefore was the color of bdellium. And the people went about and gathered it, and ground it in the mills, and beat it with a mortar, and baked it in the pans, and made cakes of it. And the taste of it was like the taste of fresh oil. And when the dew fell upon the camp at night, the manna fell upon it. And Moses heard the people weep throughout the families, every man at his door of his tent. And the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly, and Moses was very displeased. Was displeased. So both the Lord and Moses were displeased, but these people were having to pick up literally look like rocks, grind it into powder, and make bread out of it. And I never knew it was like that until I started looking into this. And what is manna? This surprised me. Manna is man. They say it's the bread from heaven, and it means, what is it? but it's spelled man, M-A-N. And it's spelled man also in the Strongs, they have it the same. And then when I went and looked at the Latin, it's also spelled man. So that's kind of weird right there. And when we get to John 6, in John 6, Jesus tells them that he is the real bread of life and that Moses did not give them the manna from heaven, that he is the manna from heaven. So this gets pretty something to really think about when you really start thinking about it. And we see this with Paul too. I'm going to show you Paul first. In 1 Corinthians 10:16 through 17, Paul writes, "The cup of a blessing which we bless is not the participation of the blood of Christ? The bread that we break, is it not the participation of the body of Christ? Because there is one bread, we who are many are one body, for we partake of one bread." So he's calling it the real body and blood of Christ. But we know the Christ one is not the real Jesus. It's like, and if y'all haven't watched any of my videos on that, you need to go back to YouTube and watch them. It's under Scriptural Truth. Because there are two different Jesuses in the text. And I think that's why Paul said you had to rightly divide the word. Some things, Paul has some things I don't really care for, and some things that I think he was telling the truth on. And I think the dividing the word is one he told the truth on. And it says, how could we be sharing the body and blood of Christ unless the body and blood were present? Now, Paul underscores the truth, the subsequent verses, not part of the second reading, when he draws a parallel between the Eucharist and the pagan sacrifices. So he actually parallels it to let us know that that's what he's talking about. He also refers to the table of the Lord in verse 21 and implies that the real presence of Jesus is in the Eucharist. If the pagans offer a real victim, not symbolic, on the table of the demons, then how much more do Christians offer a real victim, the Christ, on the table of the Lord? So Paul believes that the Eucharist, Jesus' body, and the body is really present. He does not believe that the Eucharist is merely symbolic. And if we read in 1 Corinthians 10:20 through 22, you can see that. It says, "But I say to you, the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils, and not to God. And I would not have that ye should have fellowship with the devils. You cannot drink of the cup of the Lord and drink of the cup of devils. You cannot partake of the Lord's table and the table of devils. Do we provoke the Lord to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? If by communion with demons in the pagan sacrifices implies that demons are really present, then communing with the body and blood of Christ in the Eucharist implies that his body and blood are really present." And I think that's why Jesus told us in Matthew 24, where the body is, there the vultures will be. He was talking about, because soma in Greek can mean either a dead body or a live body. Either one. I mean, unalive, sorry, TikTok. And you go on, and we're going to flip back and forth a little bit. Matthew 7, verse 12, this is more in that same chapter I'm telling you about. "Therefore, all things whatsoever that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets." That is what Jesus tells us the law and prophets is to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. "Enter ye at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction. And many there be which go into this threat. Because the strait gate, the narrow, the way that leads unto life, and few there be that find it." Well, he's telling us a whole lot right there, because Yahweh literally means destruction as a noun, and he will destroy as a verb. It comes from the root word in all of Hebrew is a root word language, hava, and which means ruin, destroy, calamity, mischief, or perverse thing. It has a yod in front of that root word, and when you have a yod in front of a word in Hebrew, it becomes a verb and means he will or they will. So it means he will destroy as a verb, and if you say it as a noun, destruction. And if you want to check me on that, you can go to Abram Publishing, their Hebrew publishing place online, and they have this in their notes on Yahweh's name. We have the root word in the actual text of the Bible itself too, if you want to look at that. It's found in 3 places. It's found in Isaiah 47:11. It's found in Ezekiel 7:26 twice. And it says it means ruin or disaster. And they say how to charm away and disaster will fall. And the one in Ezekiel is disaster will come upon these disaster. So you have it 3 times in the text so you can actually do the verification to make sure that that's what that word means. Now this is where we get into John 6. And this I have to believe that part of this had to be added by the Catholic Church. I mean, it just makes no sense at all to me with the rest of what's in John. It says, verse 22, and we'll read that through 40. The day following, when the people which stood on the other side of the sea saw that there was none other boat there save the one wherein the disciples were entered, and that Jesus went not with the disciples unto the boat, his disciples were gone away alone. So John is telling us in that verse that this was not the same Jesus that fed all the people, because he didn't even go with the disciples. And I think this is a clue that speaks to there being 2 of them. Then verse 23 was added in most of the manuscripts, and it says, howbeit there are other boats from Tiberias nigh unto the place where they did eat bread, after that the Lord had given thanks. Okay, and that verse, like I said, is in parentheses, and it's not in all of them. Verse 24, and when the people therefore saw that Jesus was not there, neither the disciples, they took shipping and came to Capernaum, seeking for Jesus. And when they found him on the other side of the sea, they said to him, Rabbi, when camest thou hither? So if this is one of the 2 Jesuses, this would be the one that was James the Just, because he was a high priest in the temple in 1st century. Because they called him Rabbi. Jesus answered them, saying, Verily, verily, I say unto you, you seek me, not because you saw the miracles, but because you did eat of the loaves and were filled. Labor not for meat which perishes, but for the meat which endures unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you, for him hath God the Father sealed. Okay, so he's telling us the Son of Man is the one that has been sealed. And he said unto them, What shall we do that we might work the works of God? And Jesus answered him and said, This is the work of God, that you believe on him whom he has sent. And they said therefore unto him, What sign showest thou then, that we may see and believe thee, and what dost thou work? Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not the bread from heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is that which comes down from heaven, and gives life unto the world. And then they said unto him, Lord, evermore give us this bread. And Jesus said to him, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. And then that doesn't really literally fit the rest of this narrative, though. But I said unto thee that ye also have seen me, and believe not. All that the Father giveth me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will in no wise cast out. For I came down from heaven not to do my own will, but to do the will of him that sent me. And this is the Father's will which hath sent me, that all of you which hath given me I should lose nothing, and should raise it up on the last day. And this is the will of him that sent me, that every one which sees the Son and believes on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise them up on the last day. And he makes a big deal about the last day, too. And the other Jesus tells we pass directly from life to death. I mean, from unalivement to life, everlasting life. There's no waiting period. Let's see. Make sure I didn't skip a verse. No, I didn't. Okay. Verse 41, the Jews murmured at him because he said, I am the bread which came down from heaven. And they said to him, is this not Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it then that he said, I came down from heaven? Jesus therefore answered them and said, murmur not among yourselves. No man can come to me except the Father hath sent me, draw him, and I will raise him up on the last day. Again, he gives this thing about the last day. It's written in the prophets, and they shall be taught of God. Every man, therefore, has heard and hath learned of the Father comes to me. Not that any man hath seen the Father, save which is of God. He has seen the Father. Verily, verily, I say to you, he that believeth on me hath everlasting life. I am the bread of life. Your fathers did eat manna in the desert, and they are unalive. This is the bread which comes down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof and not die. I am the bread of life which came down from heaven. If any man eat this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I give is my flesh, which I give for the life of the world. And the Jews therefore strove among themselves, saying, how can this man give us flesh to eat? And Jesus said unto them, verily, verily, I tell you, except you eat the flesh of the Son of Man, and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Also eateth my flesh, and drinks my blood, hath eternal life, and I will raise him up on the last day. Again, he says that. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He that eateth my flesh and drinks my blood dwelleth in me, and I in him. And as the living Father hath sent me, I live by the Father, so he that eateth me, even he shall live by me. This is the bread which came down from heaven, not as your fathers did eat manna, and are unalive. He that eateth of my bread shall live forever. These things he said in the synagogue as he taught in Capernaum. That again, teaching in the synagogue tells me that this is JC. It's not Barabba. And then Jesus said to them, verily, verily, I say to you, except you eat this flesh. Okay, I already read that one. I copied over twice. And whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him up on the last day. For my flesh is indeed... Okay, I already read that part. I put it in there twice. I don't know why. Okay, when you get... This is strange now. When you get down to chapter 6, verse 66, it says, from that time many disciples went back and walked no more with him. Now, I thought it was ironic that they put that verse at 666, but then it said in 67, it says, and then Jesus said unto the 12, will you also go away? And Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? Thou hast the words of eternal life, and we believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And then Jesus answered them, have I chosen you 12, and one of you is a devil? He knew what he was doing. This was JC. He was setting up what we see in the Catholic Church. There are two of them. The real Barabbas did not do this mess. He would not have had us doing cannibalism. And this is how you can tell what happened. There's a Catholic Eucharist. It's like Catholicism and all the old churches in the matter, they believe theology, they believe in what's transubstantiation. I can never say that word right. But what it is it's not a symbolic, it's not a piece of bread, and it's not a communal snack. It's the real body and the blood of Jesus is what they believe. That when the priest holds it up like that at the Mass and they ring the little bell, that it literally turns into the body and blood of Jesus. And I believe this is what the Christ person and them set up. And you can see how gross it is when you look at these pictures. It's like, see they're down below. I don't know, and that one on the right is kind of hard to see, but you can see they've got a cup down there and they're holding it to catch his blood so they can drink it. And then on the left, they got his heart with the thorns around it, and it got the cup underneath it with the blood dripping into the cup. I mean, this is how gross. If I'd have known all this when I was young and I became Catholic, and I'm not bashing on Catholics because I used to be Catholic, and there are a lot of good people in the Catholic Church, but this is some sick, twisted stuff, I'm telling you. And it's right there in your New Testament. That's why you know there's two of them. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. Because one of them does not speak of these things. And this is St. Augustine in 357 AD to 430 AD said, recognize in the bread that the same body that hung on the cross and in the chalice is the same blood that gushed from his side. They firmly believe that. And see that picture on the right is another one of their pictures with the blood gushing out of the heart of his heart flowing into the cup. But that's what I'm telling y'all. It's like we've got two different things going on, and one warning us, and one telling us the right way, and one telling us the wrong way. Okay. And this is that verse on the serpent, and the fish. It's like, because I wanted to show you where it says about the fish. It's in Numbers 11:4, and it's also in Numbers 21 about this stuff. It says that a mixed multitude was among them and fell in lusting, and the children of Israel also wept again and said, who shall give us flesh to eat? And they said, we remember the fish. Remember, I read this part, and the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. Again, they're talking about all the good things they had. And it says, but now our soul is dried away, nothing at all. Besides this manna before our eyes, that's all they had, was the manna before their eyes. And I think this is, Paul said it was a foreshadow of things to come. I think this is literally talking about the Catholic Church, and it was a futuristic thing going to happen in Numbers, because they literally have in that, there's like a big round disc thing, and they put the wafer in the middle after it's been changed, and people literally go in there for hours on end venerating and kneeling on their knees and praying to that wafer, because they believe it really is the body, the actual body of Christ that's inside of that circle, in that little round thing, and it's gold. And that's what Solomon's 666 is, that gold round wafer of splendor. It literally means a golden round of bread when you read it in Hebrew. They don't tell us that either. They just said it's 666 talents of gold, but in Hebrew it's actually a golden round splendor of bread. And it delineates a time period for when this should all end, and it's been exactly since the veneration of the golden round splendor bread has been on display in the Catholic Church to today. This year will be 666 years exactly. So that's no coincidence either. But he said in verse 10, and he asked for a fish, would he send him a serpent? Well, when you look at Numbers 21, that's what they did. And verse 5, and the people spoke against God and against Moses. Therefore they brought us out of Egypt to die here in the wilderness. For there's no bread and there's no water, and our soul loatheth this light. And they've got bread, but there's another word in Hebrew. I can't remember what it is, but it's not really bread there. And then Yahweh gets mad, and it says in the next verse, and the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many of them died, or unalived. Therefore the people came to Moses and said, we've sinned, and we have spoken against the Lord, and against these we pray unto the Lord that he will take away the serpents from us. And Moses prayed for the people, and the Lord said, let's make a fiery serpent and set it upon a pole, and it will come to pass that everyone that is bitten, when they look at it upon, they shall live. So Moses made the serpent of brass and put it upon the pole, and it came to pass that when somebody had been bitten by one of the serpents, if they looked on that brass serpent, they lived. Now, this is why I'm kind of dubious that maybe the Old Testament is actually newer than the New Testament, because the manuscripts are older in the New Testament than they are in the Old, because this is exactly what we see happening when the Catholic Church set up the church. They put Jesus, and Jesus said that they would put him up on a pole. He even mentions Moses. It's like they set him up front. Everybody that venerates that image of that icon and eats his body and blood is going to be saved, is what they tell them. But that's not Barabbas. That's not the real one. But they sure bring people in, because it happened to me, and I was 21 when I joined that church, and I'm just like, I cannot believe. I mean, I've been studying over 10 years before I could figure this out. It's crazy. Okay, and then in verse 15 and 16 it says, beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, and inwardly are ravenous wolves. You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? And he's given us a lot of clues here, because I believe he was speaking of Moses, and I believe that he was speaking of Paul, both of them. Luke even has the same thing. He has, for every tree is known by its own fruit. For of thorns men do not gather figs, nor of the bramble bush gather they grapes. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth that which is good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth that which is evil. For of abundance of the heart does the mouth speak. Okay? And it's like in Exodus 3:2. We have and the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush, is what we have in English. But when you look at that word for bush, it is a senna, and a senna is a thorn bush. So Moses was at a bush that was burning, that was a thorn bush. And he looked and beheld the bush burned with fire, and the thorn bush was not consumed. So it's literally, he's going back, he's taking us back to the thorn bush. Now, if we were Hebrew and we were reading in Hebrew, we would see this automatically, but because we're reading in English and they removed the word thorn, it's a lot harder to see this. Okay, and there it is in the It's like, and the messenger of Yahweh appeared to him in the flame of fire from the midst of the thorn bush, and he looked and saw the thorn bush burning with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And he says also in Luke, for every tree that is known by its fruit of thorns, men do not gather figs, nor of bramble bushes, which is another type of thorn bush, gathered they grapes. And some fell among the thorns, and the thorns sprang up, and it choked them out. So the thorn stuff will choke you out. And we know, guess who had a thorn in his side? Paul. 2 Corinthians 12:7. Unless I be exalted above measure, through the abundance of revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan, to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. I'm not sure if that's the same chapter, too. I didn't even notice that. Let me look back. No, it's not the same chapter as the other one. I said that'd be ironic if it was. So we know there we've got Paul has got the thorn from Satan. And by the way, if you're reading that in Exodus 3:2, it says the messenger of Yahweh. That literally means the angel Yahweh. There is no of thee in that sentence in Hebrew. I think that Yahweh was literally the angel. And when you read 2 Samuel 22, I believe that's recording when he fell from heaven. It said he bent heaven and was cast down and made to go on foot. When you read it in Hebrew, it sounds a lot worse than it does in English. And then we get down to, we get down to verse 17, and we got another warning. Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit. Neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree bringeth forth good fruit is hewed and cut down and cast into the fire. That bringeth not good fruit. Therefore, by the fruits you'll know them. Okay? Well, when you look at Genesis 2:7, you've got the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Well, knowledge is the fruit that tree's given off. It's given off evil and good off of one tree. And Jesus is telling us that can't be. It's like he warns us you have to really be listening to him when he's saying these things, because he's telling us so much. And we got the same thing in Luke 6:43 and 44. For a good tree bringeth not forth corrupt fruit, neither does a corrupt tree bringeth forth good fruit. For every tree is known by its own fruit. For of thorns men do not gather figs, or of the bramble bush gather they grapes. So he's also taking us back in that same verse to the thorn bush again. And I know these people had to know what he was talking about. Slow down and read. Oh, yeah. We do have to slow down and read, and really read with understanding, not just read. It's like sometimes I'll go all day long thinking on one thing, and people know me, that know me real well, know I'll work on one verse all day. And I'll compare it to this, that, and the other, and just try to make sure I've got it 100% right. Especially when I'm doing the translations, I get really nervous because I don't want to do anything to upset Father. I want it to be exactly right. Okay. And then we get down to 21, and he said, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. And you're going, what? You know, it's like, not everybody says Lord, Lord. Everybody says Lord, you know. And it's like, when you look in the Septuagint, the word they use for Lord is Kyrios. And it's translated 7,000 times as the Lord, Lord, like Yahweh in the Old Testament in the Greek Septuagint. So the intent probably of this verse was for it to be Yahweh. Not everybody that says Kyrios, Kyrios, or Yahweh, Yahweh will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. So he's telling a whole lot right there. That makes my head hurt. That's why I've got that funny picture on there. There it is again. And then we have, goes on in verse 22, on that day many will say to me, Kyrios, Kyrios, or Yahweh, Yahweh, or Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Notice that's one time he says in your name. Cast out demons in your name. Second time he says in your name. And do many mighty works in your name. Third time he says in your name. So he's drawing attention twice to the name Lord or Yahweh, and he's drawing attention 3 times to the mention of in your name. So he's stepping it up there. I mean, he's really trying to get you to look at it real careful, you know. And when you look at Genesis 3:8, if you read it in the Greek Septuagint, and they heard the voice of Kyrios walking in the garden in the cool of the day. So there's it's 7,000 times that it's Yahweh's name they call Kyrios in the Greek Septuagint. And he tells us in John 16:2-3, they shall put you out of the synagogue, yea, the time cometh when whoever unalives you will think they're doing God's service. And those things that they will do unto you, because they have not known the Father nor me. They don't know him. They will unalive us because they don't know him. Because they're not worshiping the same Father. He says in Matthew 23:9, call no man on earth your father, for one is your Father, and he is in heaven. He lets us know so many times. He said, I come in my Father's name. When another comes in his own name, you'll receive him. That's what we did. We did exactly what he warned that we would do. And he says, then when it gets down to 24, therefore whosoever hears these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, who built his house upon a rock, and the rain descended, floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon the house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And everyone who hears my sayings of mine, and doth them not, shall be likened unto the foolish man, who built his house on the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, the wind blew and beat upon the house, and it fell, and great was its fall. And it came to pass, when Jesus had ended these sayings, the people were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one having authority, not as the scribes. But I think this whole book, this whole chapter 7, is geared toward getting us to see the difference between the Father they had been taught and the one that he was teaching. And I think that's where this Lord, Lord came in at. It's like, when he mentioned that 3 times, in my name, in my name, in my name, you know, but they're calling him Lord, Lord, I knew, my heart just sank. I was like, that's why he's going to say he doesn't know him. Because they don't know the Father. I hope this made sense to y'all. I think that's the last slide. I just went through that one chapter And then I drew in the stuff about the Catholic Church because I thought that was important to bring in there too, because I think that's where the deception lay with the Christ word, was this causing the ritualistic sacrifice of, it's like they sacrifice Jesus over and over and over, but they call him the Christ one. They're not worshiping the right one. So, like I said, that's complicated, but I have videos on it. If you want to see how I show that and everything, I would go to my YouTube channel on Scriptural Truth and watch them. And I'm not saying I know everything. I don't know everything. There's a lot of things I don't know, but I know that what we found with the two Jesus, I know it's real. And I know that Yahweh is not the Father, the real Father. Our Father loves us, and He's not going to do cruel things to us.